Hey, what's up studs? Ryan here, or MandRproductions, and today I'm reviewing the LEGO Star Wars 7155 Trade Federation AAT from the year 2000. It's definitely an older set, but it still checks out. It's actually really good for its age, in my opinion. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but it's from Star Wars Episode 1, and again, from the year 2000, so it's got some quite funky-looking box art there on the top right. The box does take place on Naboo, which is actually really cool looking there. Its official set number, again, is 7155 with 158 pieces for ages 7 to 12. The set includes 2 figures there, not many figures, but figures with just 2 regular battle droids, and when released in 2000, the set did cost 20 bucks, adjusted for inflation, that's about 30 bucks nowadays, and if you want to buy this set sealed in box on like eBay or Bricklink or something like that, you're looking at about $100, and that will vary depending on whether or not you find yourself a deal or not, but that's about the price you can expect to pay new in box. Back side of the box shows the set in a hanger there, kind of been broken down, and then it shows some alternate builds for the set that you could try to throw together yourself, kind of trying to inspire your creativity. LEGO did that a lot back in the day, but let's take a look at our minifigs. I think the figures are somewhere this set actually shows its age pretty obviously, and that's because I feel like nowadays LEGO would totally include a couple of actual minifigures like Boss Nass or Jar Jar from the actual scene on Naboo that you just don't see here. You just get a couple of battle droids, which is comparatively kind of lame. They also have some very weird looking blasters, and it's very hard to actually get them to stand on a regular flat surface with those blasters because they're just so big and weighty. Like, they look ridiculous. Obviously, the straight arms weren't introduced to 2007, so you had the curved arms on both sides, but the battle droids, for the most part, look pretty modern because they haven't changed in 20 years. So that's the figure selection. I don't really have a lot of problems with it. It just leaves somewhat of a little bit to be desired compared to what you would see today in a LEGO set. And there is the beautiful tan AAT from 2000 there. It's wonderful. It actually is. It's a really good set for 2000. It's probably one of the better earlier LEGO Star Wars sets. It uses these giant UFO panels that LEGO actually printed on. I know, what a concept, LEGO printing on parts, but 2000 was a very different time, and they actually did put some very nice large prints on here. So it's got a ton of detail in that regard, just starting off at the base of the set. Now, there is some bit of detraction for having these large panel pieces that obviously aren't exactly made for this, and that's that they have these studs on the top here. Doesn't look great to have those open holes. Obviously, it's supposed to just kind of be this nice rounded thing, and it's just not exactly that. So kind of unfortunate that that exists, but that's just a byproduct of the design at that point. So obviously, they haven't used these in years and years now, and they never returned to an AAT, but it was a very interesting look for the original AAT. I believe we also saw these big UFO panels on the original Millennium Falcon from 2000. So we got a little bit of use out of those pieces in the earlier days. Maybe another benefit to them is that they are hollow. So you actually save a little bit on the weight of the set. It's not as heavy of a set as you may imagine, especially on the front end. The front end is extremely, extremely light. And you'll also find some inverted tiles on the bottom here that help stabilize the set and allow it to move smoothly over flat surfaces. That's pretty standard for most LEGO sets. You can tell it's from the year 2000 because they use a lot of blue on the inside as well, like just as kind of filler pieces, and it's unfortunate that they do this in areas that are oh so visible to you. Like, why couldn't they just use tan pieces in those areas? It doesn't make sense to me, but that was something that LEGO did a lot in the earlier 2000s. You also saw this, I believe, recently in my review of the 4483 AT-AT. Not as visible, but they definitely used a lot of blue on the interior, and blue just was a color that they used a lot for their interior bricks like that. So found that kind of interesting. There's a couple of cannons here at the base of the set on the front. You have a nice little panel here that can pop off. It's printed, so you can see that nice design there. Again, you don't see much like that today in LEGO, and it actually is a small area, not very detailed, no control panel or anything, but a small area nonetheless for you to go ahead and fit one of your battle droids into. And like I said, he's not really going to fit in there the greatest. He's just going to kind of have to slouch down in there, and you got to kind of hide him in there, but it's a nice storage place for one of your battle droids, right? You can see a little hole here. You can actually see him in there, but still, it's a nice place, and when you're looking at it dead on, you're not even going to notice that he's in there, so it's nice that you're actually going to, as we get to farther to the back of the set, you're actually going to be able to get both battle droids in the set. Moving back here past the midsection, I actually noticed I had these built wrong, so I fixed the orientation of them, but there are some cannons on the side here, and they are really nice looking. They have little antenna pieces, so you can actually actually change like the orientation of them a little bit and have them point the other way if you want to. That's kind of neat. Obviously, they don't do anything like the modern ones do where you can spin them or anything, but because they're just kind of stuck in by plates. But it's a pretty sturdy build. They will fall off somewhat easily, so I could see a lot of people losing those, unfortunately, back in the day. I know most people that buy this nowadays are just buying it to display or whatever, but, you know, back in 2000, if you bought this for a kid, they were probably going to lose these pieces. And actually, a piece that I had some trouble with here is at the front of this larger cannon. This piece I had just lost at some point, and it was never found, and I actually had to order new pieces just for this review. But the cannon on top, speaking of, is a nice long cannon. It's very accurate in its length because it comes right to the front of the hood of the AAT here, which is just about perfect. Like, I really like that they were able to nail that look. The newer AAT, mind you, in 2020 does not nail that look. So check out my review on that set whenever it's available. But that is a problem in modern sets. That wasn't a problem in older sets because LEGO was really had it down here. So with this cannon, you can also have it raise up and give it a bit of a different angle. Problem being, this is a bit of a tight fit here. I don't know if it's my particular model, but these are really hard to get to move. So it can work, but it's hard to get to work. And you can, you know, have it point straight up. It doesn't look great pointed straight up. I would say you're really only good for just 1 degree of movement here. Just that first tick up is going to be good, and I wouldn't go any further than that, but usually I'm just going to leave it down like that because, like I said, if you try to lift it up the way you would want to lift it up, it falls right off. And then even when you try to lift it up, it's going to be hard. Like, it's a tough one to get to move for some reason. Again, I don't know if it's my particular model because it's old and used or whatever, but like, that was a problem that I noticed on this set that's kind of unfortunate. The cannon on top does have a good range of motion, getting about like 60 degrees of motion. Not a lot there, but still enough to be serviceable within the direction that the AAT is pointing, right? So it does move rather easily, unlike this part on the front. You have a nice antenna piece here, which just leaves straight up. And then kind of suffering with the same fault that the cannon on the front does, because they use the same like Technic pieces, is with this hatch here. If you want to lift it up, you know, it can work, but eventually this is just going to rip off and away from that. That is something that they fix and do a lot better on modern AATs, but this one definitely had a problem with that. Inside, you'll find a pair of binoculars and a little space for a battle droid to take a seat. And he can sit in there, and you can have the hatch open just like so, or if you want to close it, you can have him sit down like that and then close that above him. No problem, no questions asked, not going to be a big deal. Perhaps the final feature, real feature on the set, is the ability to store your battle droid weapons with some clips found underneath the AAT there. So that's actually a really nice little space to store those. You'll also find some nice engine pieces here on either side of the AAT. I think that that is pretty killer looking. I think those pieces just worked really well for the time, and they really fit the aesthetic of the set as a whole for the early 2000s. So what do I think of this one? I think it's a really solid AAT. It's definitely not the best AAT. I think that, you know, if you check out my comparison when available, I'll have it linked down below. The 2009 AAT is just leaps and bounds better than this one. But this one really nailed a lot of design aspects that were really important, especially for the early 2000s. This is one of the best earlier Star Wars sets, in my opinion. It is just absolutely killer. It had a great set that it kind of went along with when it came out, and that was the Flash Speeder for like 10 bucks. So it had a nice combo set that you could get alongside it, and I think that that goes a long way as well. But overall, this is a wonderful AAT. I want to give it an 8 out of 10. I think that some of the tightness in the joints is a real problem. I don't know if that was something that would have been a problem out of the box, or if it's just the age of the actual model having been on display for so long showing, you know, but it still is a problem to me, and so I have to say that. I would also say that these larger panels having the gaps here kind of sucks, but obviously that's just something that comes with the territory of having the large panels. It's really nice that they're printed though. Like, I think that's amazing, because on modern AATs, they're not printing or even putting the sticker on there at this point. So that's kind of the changes we've seen over the last 2 decades. But very cool model for 2000. I think that this one's pretty killer, and if you're thinking about getting it, I would totally recommend it. I think that this one is a really nice one. It's a really cool one to have in your collection. I think it's the better tan AAT if you want a tan one from episode 1, and it's just got that real classic vibe, but still looks good for your display if that's what you're going for. So that's the 2000 AAT. Let me know what you think about it in the comments section below. If you own one, do you have the same problems as me with the hinges just being really tight, or am I just getting the short end of the stick on that one? But that's all for this video, guys. If you enjoyed, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and check out my other LEGO videos. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.